The Eagles just signed a safety, but it's not the one any of the fans wanted, although Vic Fangio, he's coached him before and gave his seal of approval before the Eagles' first practice back today since the Ravens game. Oh, and some stars from that game, they look to keep pushing for more after an exciting day of practice. I'm Thomas Mott. This is The Thomas Mott Show. Just 2 days after the Birds' first preseason game against the Baltimore Ravens, and the Eagles found themselves back at the NovaCare complex today, practicing in pads for their lone practice in Philadelphia this week before heading to New England on Monday to begin joint practices and eventually a game versus the Patriots. But the big news this Sunday is the signing of former Broncos safety Caden Sterns, bringing another safety body to an already very crowded roster room and making the Eagles' most confusing position even more interesting. And I know what you're thinking, Thomas, where are you right now? Well, I'm in Kenai, Alaska, going salmon fishing this afternoon, halibut tomorrow. We're doing a little mini vacation before the start of the NFL season. But the other question is, Thomas, why didn't they just sign Justin Simmons? Well, let me explain. First off, Simmons, at the time of filming this, early on an Alaskan Sunday morning, is coming off a weekend meeting with the New Orleans Saints. Reporters are expecting him to sign there really any day now. By the time you watch this, he might be gone. The Saints are looking for a starting safety. That's the key. Philadelphia, they're not. And Simmons wants one final contract at his older age of 31, and that way he can go ahead and hopefully see the field as a starter, make a lot more money, thereby finishing his career in style. Philadelphia has two starting safeties. Reed Blankenship is one, obviously, and of course CJ Gardner-Johnson, both of which would not want to give up their starting spots to a newcomer. But Thomas, I thought Simmons and Fangio loved each other. Why haven't they signed this guy just yet? Well, that report kind of died a couple of days ago when PFN's Anthony DeBono reported, and also told Josh Davis and myself, that there are some unmentioned issues between the two that explain really why he's not an Eagle. And now we can't really mention exactly what that is, but let's just say it's enough for Josh and I to believe there's been basically zero shot of him landing in Philadelphia this entire time. And while Philadelphia was always the fan favorite to sign Justin Simmons, that obviously never happened, and today the door officially closed. Okay, so that makes sense, but why Sterns? Who is he? Well, it's important to first realize that Philadelphia is getting something not really as expected out of the former Broncos draft pick out of UT. Sterns is coming off of a brutal torn patellar tendon that he suffered in week 1 of last season, and despite having almost a year to recover, just days before he was released by the Broncos last week, Denver's head coach Sean Payton told reporters that, quote, "Look, he's not there yet, but it's nice to see him back on the field. It took a while, so we just have to be real measured and smart with his acclimation back, but it's good to have him back out there." Well, that doesn't sound very reassuring, and again, just a couple of days ago. And I guess if you thought maybe Denver was just using that injury as an excuse to release Caden Sterns, open up a roster spot a couple of days ago, well, the Carolina Panthers very quickly claimed him off waivers late last week, and then quickly dropped him due to a failed medical. So, of course, not to be a Debbie Downer, but there's not even a guarantee that Sterns makes the roster past next week. I mean, this is a serious day-by-day process. He needs to get inside the building in Philadelphia, prove he's healthy enough, and then get back on the football field. Now, lucky for us, it just so happened that the Eagles defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, was talking to reporters this morning before practice and right after the Birds signed Sterns, so we got a little behind-the-scenes peek at why the Eagles added him.
Yeah, he was a good player, moved well, had good instincts, good ball skills, had a good feel for the game. We just need to see where he's at physically. He's only played 5 games in the last 2 years, I believe. I don't believe you'll see him out here on the practice field at least for a week or so. So we need to see where he is physically, how he's moving around, and then go from there.
In the end, Stern is a massive long shot to even make this roster. Like, his saving grace is the fact that Philadelphia has a very cloudy picture at safety right now behind their 2 starters, opening up a potential roster spot for him. But Fangio, just a couple hours ago, raved about Bradbury looking good in his safety transition. The Eagles still have Sidney Brown winning the wings, and sure, I guess Stearns is low risk, high reward, but Philadelphia is clearly not thinking they found some sort of diamond in the rough. They're just trying to give him another chance. And I guess after watching this, if you're still concerned about the safety spot, I get it, but don't forget that Cooper Dejean, he's waiting in the wings and really starting to ramp up his recovery. You see him here working off to the side this morning with the still injured CJ Gardner-Johnson, looking pretty good with that hamstring injury. I think Dean's going to be back maybe sometime this week, if not early next week. Still, though, the Eagles safety spot is probably the one big question mark right now just because of health, right? They have a ton of players behind the 2 starters, but how healthy can they be? Are you concerned about the safety spot? Are you not? Let me know down below in the comment section. Oh, and by the way, you guys probably saw that Nick Foles is retiring, and that's going to be at the Eagles' home opener, Monday Night Football versus the Falcons. Remember, I have 2 tickets to that game. I'm going to give away once I hit 60,000 subs. A little more incentive. It's going to be a packed house, an expensive ticket as well. You'll get them for free if you're a subscriber and you win. Go down below and let me know if you would actually want want those tickets, though, given away once we hit 60K. Now, one of the brightest spots from the Eagles' first preseason game was Quinyon Mitchell, and honestly, he was at it again during practice today, kind of picking up where he left off with some one-on-ones versus Devontae Smith, with reporters noting that first one went to Devontae, last two to Quinyon. Mitchell had a PBU on the second one. Gardner-Johnson was yelling and supporting Quinyon the whole time. I don't think there's been an Eagle who's as smoothly transitioned from the NFL draft to the NFL as Quinyon Mitchell, at least in recent history. Like, rookies have been fine in Philadelphia, but Quinyon just seems to pick it up so darn quickly. I think the Eagles have a diamond in the rough, and clearly his defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, today is trying to make sure the ball keeps rolling with Q.
I thought he did well. He played both nickel and outside corner. He's a good player and is going to be a good player. We just have to be careful not to overload his plate too much because nickel is a full-time position as well as corner is, and he's having to learn both right now, and they're two drastically different positions. So we got to constantly monitor that to make sure he's capable of doing that.
Now, Fangio did hit on another note when it comes to his starting linebacker, Zach Baun's performance in those couple of first-team snaps versus the Ravens on Friday. If you remember, they weren't very good, and of course, the film now is showing that Baun was really struggling and out of position for those two big hitters early in the Ravens game. And in classic Fangio fashion, he called out Baun's performance today to the media and explained still confident in him, but he wasn't very good on Friday.
He had a few plays where in New Orleans where the way they adjusted their defense, he would end up kind of looking like a ILB at times. Not a lot. And just from looking at those few plays, thought he had a chance to do it.
And does he have those instincts?
He does. I believe he does. He's had a good camp. His first few plays the other night, he didn't play correctly, but overall he's had a good camp.
Now, adding insult to injury for Baun, remember, Trotter and Dean were really good in that game. Mentioned it in my recap that I dropped yesterday. However, today, Baun was still one of the starting linebackers next to Devin White, which proves that a couple of plays is enough to sink his chances. Still, though, he's been doing enough to be the starting linebacker. It's not guaranteed. If Trotter or Dean, or I guess the combination of both of them, play really well going forward, look for Zach Baun to maybe lose the starting job, or at least the start of losing the starting job today. We're going to keep an eye on that, though, especially as joint practices are about to get underway. In the end, Philadelphia is in a good place with Caden Sterns, with Zach Baun, and obviously with Quinyon Mitchell. They're going to figure things out, and really, as we head to New England the next couple of days, joint practices are going to be very, very telling because you get one-on-one reps, right? You're not just playing against your own teammates. You're not just playing in a preseason game for a couple of snaps. They're going to do a ton of one-on-ones, 7-on-7s, and 11-on-11s. We'll cover it all here on the channel, despite doing a little bit of fishing with bad lighting in the early morning on a Sunday here in Alaska. Plenty of coverage. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been The Thomas Mott Show.